I've been meaning to get more of these out. But I was really excited about, today was my office. I've been talking a lot about regeneration and stem cells, and maybe some of you know, we've been doing stem cells in the office in regenerative medicine. So we've had everybody coming on, busting my chops about, I want to learn more about this. Can you tell me more? When's another information? And we're handing out all these little books. I'm like, you know what? I got some time in the afternoon on Tuesday. I'm going to get it from the horse's mouth. So I invited Kevin Lucus. Kevin, how you doing?
Bill, I am having a fantastic day. I got another day, so that's always a step in the right direction. And I'm getting to spend time with my beautiful California friends, so that's even better.
Do we look like we're in lockdown?
Yeah, I heard it's going wild again in California.
And
you guys,
for some reason, we went purple yesterday or the day before or whatever, and I'm just like, oh, what are you going to do? And right. So you want to talk about regeneration? I'd like to regenerate the thought processes in the Rona that's going on over here. But I digress. We could talk about that for the
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, that's a fun one. So I want to talk about the regenerative cells and what's been going on. Why don't you introduce yourself and just kind of give your background a little, so that all the people out in Facebook world can go out and kind of learn about who you is.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Kevin Lucus, and I am the co-founder of Regeneration, and we specialize in regenerative wellness, specifically utilizing infinity cell stem cells. For over 20 years, I've specialized in working with the worst of the worst as a board-certified structural integrator. So my background as a body worker had me working with a lot of very severe acute injuries, as well as a ton of chronic injuries, but my specialty really was working with a lot of autoimmune challenged patients, a lot of neurological challenged patients, Parkinson's, dystonia, was working with a lot of MS. And I was at this place where it hit me one day that while our clients were getting better and they were making progress, and then working collaboratively with, amazing chiropractors like you guys, or amazing naturopaths, like Glenn, I was still in a spot where I felt like my clients were limited because they were constantly still having to come back and see us. Now, maybe that was being extended out, but it really hit me one day, and I realized that I was ultimately helping my clients manage their decline. So we were in this spot where, we could help, the alignment of their body. We could get their muscles to be stronger and more pliable and better flexibility. But we couldn't really put new tires on the car. We couldn't really put new parts in the car, so to say. And about 5 years ago, I was introduced to the world of stem cell therapy by actually one of my clients. They have been researching it. We're talking about going over to Germany to go receive stem cells. And
Kobe did that, right?
What's that?
Didn't Kobe did that? Like that kind of became famous.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the primary things that allowed him to come back so quickly after a complete Achilles tendon rupture, completely separated. So stem cells were a core component of his recovery, and him being able to come back in 6 months, a lot of people thought was a miracle, but it was really the miracle of stem cells.
So, what's interesting? So you're a body worker, I'm a body worker, and, you're talking about working with neurological problems, autoimmune, everything else. I think most people, when they're thinking about regenerative therapies, they're talking about, or they're thinking, my knee replacement, my shoulder replacement, my hip replacement. And,
exactly.
And I think that's how it kind of got famous, was musculoskeletal stuff and like the Kobe thing.
Right.
So, but that's not right where you started, right? With the
no, that actually isn't. Most while I was having some clients really look at stem cells for the orthopedic dynamics, as you just mentioned, I just happened to be working with a population group who were utilizing it for the health challenges that came, as a result of the neurological disorders that they were experiencing. And all of a sudden, as my clients started to go get infinity cell therapy, specifically in cells over, some of the other versions or brands of stem cells, I started to see improvements and changes in their body that were impossible in any other way, in any other capacity before. So fast forward a few more years, I'm now referring so many of my clients from Washington State and from Florida and throughout the country to fly to our partner's clinic in Dallas. And they were making progress that was literally, everything that we had only dreamed of before. And that's where, my obsession really came from. And we got to a point where we were referring.
Hold on a second, Kev, because this is important, and I forget because I get so I'm just listening to the story. It's like we're sitting at Starbucks or something, but I keep forgetting that we're actually on Facebook and social media. So we're talking about like a game changer with orthopedic, neurological, and autoimmune. So if you guys are listening to this right now, so even if this is rebroadcast later, share this out to somebody, because everybody knows somebody like that. So share that out right now and listen, because we don't know what like awesome truth bombs are going to be dropped by Kevin right now. But share this out to your, anybody that that may need this. So I'm sorry, I digress. Well,
no, that's perfect. We need people to know that this is available today, right? It's not the future. It's not waiting to come into play. The future literally is here, and the future is now. And so please share this video with anybody that that is struggling with any kind of health challenge, because that's the beautiful thing behind Infinity Cells, is that there really is no limitation. Now, originally, when people were first really exploring stem cell therapy in the United States, pretty much they said, well, it's really only effective for especially large joints. So clients were coming in for shoulders, knees, and hips. And they were having a mixed bag of success. Some people were seeing, really good change. Other people would have to do therapy 4 or 5 times to get moderate change in the beginning with some of the first kind of iterations of stem cells, especially in the United States. Fast forward 5 years later, things have improved and accelerated so dramatically. Now this idea that people were receiving regenerative therapy was this high, crazy, and medical procedure now is a super, super simple, 30-minute office visit. And the therapy, as you've experienced, literally only takes a matter of, 10 to 15 seconds. And to see the improvements, in the different orthopedic challenges, whether it's an ankle, a knee, a hip, spinal challenges. My own mom, struggled with 4 failed back surgeries in 2 years. They did 4 in a 2-year window. She was worse than what she had ever been, was literally bedbound. And after receiving Infinity Cells, within 3 months, she was back to working in her craft room 8 to 10 hours a day. She went from 16 medications down to 6 medications within a 3-month window. And now it's been a year, and she's living a life that the doctors told her was never going to be possible, that her neurosurgeon told her, Kathy, you're never going to be able to do any of these things again. And now every day she's doing all of these amazing things.
It's amazing when we've had years and years of, this is how it is. And it doesn't get any better, prepare, make yourself comfortable. And when you get a game changer, sometimes it seems too good to be true.
Right.
And it's amazing. So like you said, most people are thinking, knees, shoulders, hips, big bone, and we kind of got famous off of that. So talk about neurological stuff.
Yeah. So this is where, again, I would say about 75% of my practice really focused around working with neurological challenges. So when my patients originally started going and getting Infinity Cell therapy, they were coming back with improvements in their lives, from, tremors were decreasing and going away, balance and coordination was coming back at a level that, they thought was a ship that had sailed, a lot of Parkinson's patients can really struggle with vision challenges, and so they lose their ability to drive. So one of the big ones for me was a big aha moment was one of my more severe neurological patients came back, after therapy, and about 3 months after they received therapy, they drove to the office that day. I was waiting for his wife to come in because normally she has to drive him, and I'm like, "Where's your wife?" He's like, "Oh, no, I drove today." And he just brushed it off like it was no big deal. And I'm like, "You drove today?" Right? So the thing with this process is understanding the simple science behind this is that infinity cells and stem cells are designed to go where you have trauma, to go where there's inflammation, to go where there's degeneration. And it's not just something that is helpful for, an orthopedic challenge. Really, any tissue, bone, blood, cartilage, ligament, tendon, heart, lung, liver, kidney, it doesn't matter what organ or what tissue is in what's called the paracrine signaling mechanism.
Yeah, we're breaking up a little there. Shake the voodoo. We lost Kevin just a little bit there. He'll be back, I'm sure. But yeah, I think the big point here is that you don't have to have, the body is prioritizing the things that we have to do. So one of the things, like you come in with a shoulder or a neck or a hip problem going on, and you get the stem cells know where to go. And sometimes that's a neurological issue that you have. And like Kevin was talking about, look at, he's just frozen there. We'll have to make faces at him. But sorry, Kev, I'm just teasing you while you're down. But the main point being is when the body prioritizes the cell what it needs, is then the stem cells will go straight to that area, and it's kind of a bummer on sometimes because people will. Oh, Kevin's back. Hey, you're back.
I'm back.
I was just taking over for you. I was just talking about how the body prioritizes what you need, even though sometimes we may want my shoulder pain to go away, and that's what you get it for. We'll get other things, and it kind of leads us into maybe some endocrine autoimmune stuff.
Yeah.
And I want to be real careful because everybody out there in social media land, how restricted we are on saying things. So we don't say cure and we don't say treat,
right?
Because only drugs and surgery can cure anything.
Right.
Let me do this.
Right.
So now we got that.
And it's really important that people understand that regenerative therapy is not a cure or a treatment for any disease or condition, right? Just as you said, according to the law by the FDA, what stem cells and what infinity cells in particular do is that they increase your natural internal repair system. They don't even speak the language of disease, damaged tissue or inflammation, and they rebuild that damage and inflammation. And it doesn't matter how the tissues got to where they were. That's the beauty behind this.
Well, and that kind of leads us in. So whether you have orthopedic, neurological, autoimmune, blood stuff, you don't need a diagnosis. You don't have to go and wait. Say, I have degenerative arthritis. I have a undisclosed endocrine pancreatic issue because we're not really, it's like every other hippie treatment that we do from a holistic level. It's we're treating the body, and the body's going to take care of itself because it knows how to prioritize.
That's exactly right.
So in mine and Glenn's practice that's getting more and more of the functional medicine stuff, because food allergies, leaky gut, and then the rampage of autoimmunity on different levels going on. You almost get a do-over, right? You can almost press a button and get a do-over.
Right. Yeah. And
And
what's really fascinating is that the medical community as a whole has a really hard time understanding autoimmune challenges because there's a zillion different contributing factors. So I could have 100 of my clients go to 100 different, or I can have one client go to 100 different doctors and get 90 different diagnoses, right? So this is how we know, and this is the story that we hear. A lot of our autoimmune challenged clients say, I've been to 15 different doctors and none of them know what to tell me, right? They hear my symptoms, they do the blood work, but they're just really unsure what to do. And that's what's the beauty behind this is that, again, those cells don't need a diagnosis. The way that they've been created in nature is they are the cleanup crew. They are the heroes, and they just start doing what your body needs. And a really basic analogy that I love with this is that, you know, when our kids want to have candy for dinner, the kids think they kind of know what's best, right? And when my body is struggling with some pain or aches or whatever, I think I know what's best and what I need my body to do. But the reality is that oftentimes I don't really know what's best. So these infinity cells are like the parent coming into the kid, and they can say, yeah, the candy's okay, but we need to do these other things first, and then we can get to the candy.
eat your vegetables and get your proteins in, and then you can
Right.
have your snack.
That's
No, I think
exactly right.
I think that's kind of, you hit the nail on the head on that, is what else are we doing? But the other thing that we get, and I put this in the in the title because I wanted to talk, and I don't even like the term anti-aging, but
Yeah.
it's the effect. So like when you first called up and then you said, okay, I want to invite, you know, you and Glenn and Dawn to come down and do this. And I'm like, I don't have a lot of like symptoms. I have like old guy after workout stuff. Sometimes I have a
Right.
tricked knee. And if I'm pounding the pavement a lot, I'll get a little plantar fasciitis. And I consider myself somewhat fit, and I have a pretty healthy lifestyle. It's kind of like a job requirement. But
Yeah.
so when you're going about my symptoms, I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I just want to try it. And then you go in, and like you said, it's all of 15 seconds of a treatment, and we're like, okay, I got it. And I didn't really notice that. I'm trying to know. Me and Glenn are calling each other. So Glenn, what do you feel? I don't know. What do you feel? It was like we're dating for the first time. Oh, I don't know. Maybe my knee doesn't hurt as much. And in the beginning, it's like, am I placeboing this or what? Like, because it's been like a week, so nothing's going to happen.
Right.
So you fast forward, and I bet I was still working out, but I wasn't pressing this stuff, and then I'm still noticing that my times and my weights and my recovery, I wasn't waking up sore after workouts. My hair,
Right.
my baldness was, I'm like, hey, there's less skin at the shiny end of that comb. And my nails were growing. I'm going, I just cut my nails.
Right.
And my patients are saying, hey, you scratched me. I'm like, dude, I just like trimmed them like 3 days ago. But the recovery, even my runs and the energy and sleep was better. And it opened up a whole new conversation to a lot of my patients because, I have a lot of people that, they're young like me, and they just want to continue doing their workouts and like that. And I'm telling about this. I'm like, this is kind of like a game changer in the fact of just, even if you didn't have anything wrong, just to maintain your wellness. And it was really hard. Hey, Rima, I just saw you pop up. My little auntie is on watching us.
Very nice.
But I'm we're going through, and even if you're doing, you're eating right, you're exercising, you're meditating, you're doing everything right. But as we get older, it moves the needle, and it's definitely a good thing to do.
Right.
But you don't have those cells that actually, like you said, that you couldn't put the wheels back on. and
Right.
now we can.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Literally.
and
Yeah. So the way that we like people to think about this, because for the longest time, when people heard of stem cells, it was only associated with like being really sick or having a very severe condition. And then people said, well, I don't have that, or I don't have that diagnosis, or I've not had a severe injury. So why would this be beneficial? Well, the analogy that I like to use for that is that, just because your body's mostly functional doesn't mean you want to see a decrease in your bank account, right? If we could still keep our bank account boosted and at a higher level, the more things that we can do with that. So as we transition from our 40s into our 50s, step bank account. Even if I'm healthy, even if my food's on track and I'm getting movement and I'm going to a really fantastic chiropractor like Dr. Bill and I'm doing everything right, my body is still going down this, trajectory. Maybe it's not an injury or a disease, but it's going down this downward slope. So when people receive infinity cell therapy, it drastically boosts that bank account. So now instead of this, start to see this increasing. So the aches and pains and the recovery, like you said, our ability for recovery when we are 20, right? We can burn the candle at both ends. We could eat really crappy food. I can work out. I could, stay up super late and not pay for it. But to try to do that in our 40s, 50s, 60s is a big challenge. And all of that revolves around our stem cells' ability to repair as we're causing those inflammatory challenges, even if they're not a big injury.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly right. And that's what Rima was just saying, is that it sounds amazing for continued wellness. And this is why I think it's important, is because for our whole lives, up until relatively recently, even if people go to the doctor and say, is there anything else we can do? They haven't even been educated into the fact of knowing that there's the possibility, yet we have thousands of people that are, myself included, are reaping the benefits.
Right.
And so that's another reason why I said Rima and everybody else out there is share this with people, because this is not like the supplement of the week, that, oh, take this and it's going to cure everything. This is actually getting down to the basic physiology.
Correct.
And it's amazing. But with that, because, whenever people hear stem cells, and I'm going to ask you the question so you can give the answer. So we get the people said, Kevin, what are you doing to those poor babies?
Right. Yeah.
So let everybody know exactly what you're using.
Yeah. So the kind of stem cells that we're using are umbilical cord blood cells. No longer are the days back in the 50s and 60s when stem cell therapy really first started to gain traction. This is not new, but what they were doing is that they were using embryonic cells. They were using aborted fetal tissue, or they were damaging the fetus to get the stem cells out of the baby, and it was killing the baby even if the baby wasn't already aborted. So fast forward, now we're living in a time period where that is just absolutely not the best way to do therapy. Number two, you're hurting other human life, and it's illegal to do in the United States, period. So that's not happening in the States, but it's still happening in a lot of other parts of the country. So we're using cells that have been donated by healthy mothers, healthy babies, and they've been screened. The Infinity Cell sets the standard in the industry for safety and viability of the cells. We do more than double and triple than what the FDA requires to ensure that the cells are safe. And then the process for healthy mothers, healthy babies really is a big key to that equation.
Yeah, and so that's because, after everybody goes, wow, this is amazing, that sounds great, I want to wait a minute. And so we want to make that very clear that these are safe, effective, and ethical ways of getting it. So with that being said, because we get other people, and I've learned so much from you, so some of the other types of stem cell treatment, because, so we just talked about this is umbilical cord blood. Now there's some that are placenta and the others where people are hips.
Right.
Can you explain the different types?
The other big, the big way which is really being, pushed around the country is your own stem cells. It's called autologous stem cell therapy. So they pull your own stem cells. Hopefully, they try to find some stem cells in your body, either in your fat tissue or in your bone marrow. So the thing about this, though, is really fascinating because number one, it requires a major surgical procedure. On the paperwork, it says routine medical procedure, but this is major surgery. Bone marrow taps are no joke. Liposuction is no joke, right? And it's like drilling for oil without knowing where oil is. So they're doing all of this exploratory harvesting, hoping and praying that there's going to be some stem cells in there. And oftentimes the reason that these other therapies struggle to elicit the same change is that they just can't quite get enough cells to make that much of a difference. But the other piece to this is, if we know that stem cells go to areas of inflammation and injury, if I just injured my body to get the stem cells and I put the stem cells back in my body, and we know the stem cells go to where there's injury, that's almost like an oxymoron. I'm blowing up my own tire to repair the tire, but it's not super effective. So this is where, when you do talk to people who've received other kinds of stem cell therapy, they say, man, I had to do it 3 or 4 times to get any kind of noticeable changes. And as you said earlier, we have this idea that, it's almost too good to be true, what we're seeing, where that whole results not typical disclaimer has to go underneath a person's, story. We're the opposite end of that spectrum. Almost all of our clients see substantial change with a single round of therapy. And that's one of the things that I'm so grateful for, is that now the affordability factor comes into play. You're not having to travel to another country, and it's the most safe, effective thing that you could do to literally give your body the opportunity to be younger and stronger for longer. As silly and cliche as that sounds, that's really the biggest feedback that we get, is people say, man, I just worked out and normally I'd be sore and achy and laid up for the next week, but now it's like I'm, in my 30s or my 40s again.
Yeah, well, what I'm excited about with my patient base is, so I'm in Yorba Linda. We're not this is not a low income area. It's not Beverly Hills, but we are in a nice area. People have worked hard, and a lot of entrepreneurs in the area, people just through their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and getting into their 50s, and they're comfortable. They're running through. But when you work that hard, when you're spinning a lot of plates, one plate has to drop. And so,
somewhere.
Yeah. So, now the kids are off to college, maybe the kids are on their own, the house is empty, and they finally got a chance to focus in on themselves. And I've seen this heartbreaking story for so long, is that, from anything from single mothers to busy entrepreneurs, where they go, you know what, I finally decided, and they're sincere this time, I'm getting a personal trainer, I'm getting a massage, I'm going to come to you, get adjusted for this, we're going to do this. And by this time, they have like 2 or 3 decades of their abuse to their body.
Right.
And it's barely moving the needle. I mean, it's improving stuff, but it's barely moving the needle. Right. And they're just like, so now they're retired and they're going, oh yeah, that world cruise, and I wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro and do that. Yep. And you physically can't do it, no matter how much money they have, no matter how much, training they have, because they burnt those. Now they can come to me and they ask me, I'll do anything. Here's my calendar. Here's a blank check. I'll do anything. There was a time I had to go like, well, I'll take the check, but you can't, you really not do. Now I can look at them like the cat that ate the canary, go, well, do I have something for you? And we can put them on the chiropractic stuff to strengthen their spine. We can change their diet. We can get them, their mindset right. And we can introduce the regenerative cells into their body.
Right.
The coolest thing that I've seen, though, is because the cells, I mean, on average, how long are the average clients seeing a result?
So most of our clients start to see steady, consistent changes between 6 to 10 weeks as things start rebuilding and regenerating and regrowing. We do have a lot of patients, though, that within 2 to 3 weeks start noticing something. And sometimes it's real subtle in the beginning. They say, maybe I just slept better last night. My food has been on point the last 3 or 4 days. And the next thing you know, another week goes by and another week goes by, and they start talking about, man, I'm not needing my reading glasses the way that I was needing them. My recovery is improving. I saw a woman today who got therapy 3 months ago. She said her energy levels within 2 weeks went from, okay to like she was 20 years younger. But she said when she hit the 10-week marker, all of a sudden in her yoga classes, on her cycling, she's a big cyclist, she wasn't having any hip pain whatsoever. But that didn't happen the first few weeks because the body takes time to rebuild some of these tissues. So it's great because we see this building process happening over time, and it's like, more presents at Christmas. It's like you open your presents and you're like, you're done, and then the next thing you know, mom and dad bring in another stack or another one around the corner, and that's what a lot of our clients express this process is like.
Well, that's what I was asking, because that was sort of like me and Glenn the first week. Do you feel something? I don't know. Maybe it's this. I don't know. I've been but with the patients coming in that we're seeing, so now they've decided. And they started eating better, and they're exercising, and they're getting their sleep, and they're doing all the foundations of health,
right?
That we focus on. Of course, hey George Vivanco, the marketing genius, is here joining us. But so we're doing all the dirty hippie stuff. We're changing some stuff, and it takes a while for that to become their new habit or their new identity. Right. And that's right when the stem cells start kicking in too. So now they're getting a great feeling they would have from lifestyle changes, but now they're supercharged with the stem cells kicking in. And we see these people like dancing in. And you're a body worker, so when you see people kind of moving in, they're like, ah. And when they're like floating, they're like, oh, what?
Right.
It's a game changer. It really is. And to be able to tell that it's possible.
Right. And that really is the biggest thing is, when people ask us, well, who doesn't this work for? The reality is that it does work for everybody. Again, we just have to be open to realizing that the body is going to decide where the cells go and what they're going to work on based off of what is the most significant need that needs to happen. But in that process, and as people are connecting and working with amazing, mentors and health leaders like you, it's the blend of both of those worlds. And what we want people to understand is that there is no magic bullet. As great as stem cell therapy is and infinity cell therapy is, if I have a client come in and get infinity cells, even if they did them every 3 to 6 months, but their diet is awful, they're smoking 3 packs of cigarettes a day, they're stressed out, beyond what most of where we've all been at the lowest points in our lives, it's looking at a bunch of pieces together that help build the building. And if we don't manage our preventable lifestyle driven diseases, I could get stem cells every 3 months, but I still might struggle. So what I love about this is, as you said, when people start making those behavioral changes and those habit changes, then it's like that you're trying to push a car that's at a dead stop. And it's all this energy to get it going and to get it moving. And once it's moving, then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm moving this 3,000-pound car, and now I don't have to do as much to keep it going if I can stay, somewhat engaged. And that really is what we want people to know, is that it's not a magic fix-all, it's not a magic cure-all, and sometimes it's going to work on things that you might not think is as important from a feeling perspective, because of course pain is a driving motivator. But if we see change in my kidney function by 40%, that's significant, even if I still have a little bit of knee pain 3 or 4 months later after my infinity cell therapy. So it's helping people understand that what's important to the body is not always the same as what I put as a priority, and learning how to appreciate that as well.
Well, and you were talking, there's a good example on that. Now, you were talking a lot you've had a lot of patients when they come in and they have a pancreatic blood sugar dysregulation problem that they've had for a long time. And they do the stem cells and they say, oh, my knee's not getting as better. And then you do the test and you go, your pancreatic, blood sugar dysregulation thing was supported so well that it's gone. I mean, you've had a lot of those come back.
What's really amazing is that, when we have clients who, want to include their doctors in their healing journey, and the doctors, bless their hearts, all of them are oftentimes so busy that they're not keeping current on where healthcare is going and the future of healthcare, that they say, oh, well, that's just snake oil. It's, there's no evidence that it's successful. Well, lo and behold, clients that were having those challenges, now the docs take them off all of their medications and they're like, oh, well, that's fantastic. You must be doing better. And the client's like, I wasn't doing better for 20 years. And now you just told me after 10 weeks after, I did this, infinity cell therapy, I don't need my meds for, that challenge anymore. So what I love is seeing the doctors validate what's happening for the clients, even if the doctors don't put 2 and 2 together, but the clients do.
Well, and that has to happen a lot, because we've seen that a lot in the past. They'll start seeing when chiropractic and blood pressure, there was a big study that came out about dropping that. Well, we've been talking about that for 100 years, but you know what quacks we are. But when they started seeing one after another, they, perked their ears up. But I love this comment up over here from Rima about the better eyesight. It was real interesting because, the blood sugar dysregulation, pancreatic thing that doesn't get cured but gets supported through this and goes away. Often you'll have times with your eyesight. One of the things that I noticed was before this, I'd be checking out my Apple TV and trying to pick a movie, and I'm like, what's this movie? I go, and I would ask my daughter to read it to me, and I was noticing, like last week, I'm reading, well, what about this? This, I'm like, oh, dang, I can read that.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And
really, and what's been so fascinating is that as we track the changes that are happening for people, regardless of what they want help with, we honestly see eyesight improvement in about 80 to 90% of our clientele by the time we get to like months 4, 5, and 6. And so even if eyesight wasn't on their list, the next thing, when we keep checking in, following up with our clients, they're like, I'm not needing my readers, or I'm not needing my driving glasses at night, or the ophthalmologist literally needed to change my prescription. And so we had an 80-year-old woman who her son got therapy about 6 months ago, and he was like, Mom, you need to do this. She says, I don't know. She used to be a nurse. She wasn't really, on board. And she's been suffering from really severe eye challenges where she has pressure in her eyes. And 3 weeks after getting infinity cell therapy, her eye doctor was like, the pressures in your eyes haven't improved ever in the 15 years I've been working with you, and they're now improving and going the other direction. And so now she's been back in for a second eye appointment, and it's been 2 months now, and he's so blown away at the changes in her numbers, right? So here we have data, not just patients saying I'm feeling better, but he's tracking her progress, and in 2 months after therapy, she's seen changes and improvements in her vision that, they told her, you're almost all the way blind. That's all that we have for you. And now, that's not the case for her anymore.
No, and the thing with that, now Rima was asking too, is how long do the results last? Do more treatment? Do you need more treatments? And they last as long as you don't screw them up anymore, or as long as you can be regenerative.
Right.
And
yeah, I mean, really, this analogy sounds so simple, but when I put my new tires on the car, those new tires now have their own lifespan. It's not that just in 2 or 3 months they go away. Now, again, you know, everybody's journey is a little different, and everybody's destination is a little bit different. So depending on the list of challenges that I have going on, when the construction crew shows up at the site, depending on how many things they have to do, that changes, you know, the length of time people take to see changes, how the changes happen. But what we are seeing consistently with, you know, our clients is that 85% to 90% of them are meeting and exceeding their health goals with a single round of therapy, and most of them are not feeling like they have to come back to continue to sustain those results. Now, we do have people who come in and get another round of therapy because they got so much change, they want to see how far they can improve and how far they want to take it. Or the other end of the spectrum is we might have a client with the deteriorative disease where their body does decline, so they have to do, you know, therapy more, because that's the thing that's helping their body be more functional. But our kind of generalized, normalized clientele, I have clients who got therapy 5 years ago and they still are like, nope, I'm good, I don't need another round of therapy, I'm doing great still. So
well, you know, that's interesting, because what I'm kind of sold on is the every 6 months kind of thing to keep improving. Because I remember you had said that once you start regenerating that cellular environment, we know this from epigenetics and everything else,
right,
the better your environment is. So you're inviting more, you know, good people around to your party,
yep,
but no more than 3 families, because you don't want to get the herd immunity. but
right.
but the more people that you're inviting to your party, the funner the party is, and the more fun people you attract. But your body does the same thing, right?
Exactly. And again, this is the party analogy is really good. The construction analogy is really good too. So let's say I have this big remodel project and the construction crew shows up and there's only so many workers that can get so much done at a given week. They come in, they do their thing, there was a lot of improvements. Now, 6 months later, if that same crew comes back, all of those things they worked on don't need their attention. So guess what they get to do now? Now they get to start doing and focusing on other projects. And every time the body gets around of therapy and every time the body is more functional and is working better, then it takes so many other things so much higher and further, so much easier, because it's not playing catch up from an initial disaster. And so that's what's been great, is that our clients who are leveraging this therapy every 6 to 12 months, you know, when they compare themselves to their peer group, or when you have a husband or a wife who does therapy, but it's not even on the same planet at how healthy and functional the person receiving cells is compared to the spouse that isn't, or the friends that aren't. And I live in Florida part of the time, and so tennis is a huge thing. And so watching these giant group of tennis players in their 60s, 70s, and even in their 80s, the people who are getting therapy, they're putting a beat down and a smackdown on their friends that is unprecedented. And so when people see that, and they're like, maybe I should get on board and come get some infinity cells.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome, because you're seeing it firsthand in an active lifestyle. Because, you know, pain relief is awesome, but it's also subjective.
Right, 100%.
You know, when you're running up stairs, or you're doing, you know, 3 hours of tennis when you could only do an hour and a half, at you know, half of the capacity, it was cool. One thing I want you to talk about is the 6 months, how they regenerate, and how many what do you call them, families, or regenerations?
They're called daughter cells. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we know in the lab, right, in a petri dish, what they show is that umbilical cord cells replication rate are some of the most prolific and amazing replicators or doublers in all of nature. So if I take a stem cell out of a 60-year-old individual and we put it in a petri dish, from day 1 to day 30, that 60-year-old stem cell will turn into 200 new stem cells. That's amazing, right? That's if I could take $1 and in 30 days have $200, that's pretty fantastic. Now, here's the difference with infinity cells is that from day 1 to day 30, one cell turns into 1 billion cells because of the replication rate. It's compounded. So what's going to happen is that as soon as these cells are put into your body, every 27 hours, they double. So if I get therapy today and let's say I do 2 cc's of infinity cells, I get a minimum of 10 million cells. By tomorrow, 27 hours later, I got 20 million. 27 hours later, again, it doubles and it doubles and it doubles. And so in the labs, what they've shown is that this happens for a minimum of about 60 to 70 generations so 2 almost into 3 months. Now, what's fascinating is that when the replication rate stops, it doesn't mean that the cells are not working anymore. What it means is that those cells have been called to the shoulder or to the pancreas or to the brain or to the nerves in my neck or my back or the discs in my back. And it's now creating that tissue type. And what some of the most current research shows is after a single round of stem cell therapy, umbilical cord cell therapy, your body is using and it's generating new tissue for a minimum of 12 to 14 months. So after a person gets therapy, it doesn't just stop within 2 or 3 months. It continues to rebuild and grow and repair tissue. Now that's in a petri dish. So imagine, and what do you
You freezing up on us again, Kev? Okay, that. So I think what it says he's talking about is what, imagine what is going on in the body, because, it's moving and it's moving and it's moving. Once it finds that area that it's going to be, because if you know about stem cells are like the blank tissue. So if it goes to a disc, it's going to turn into disc cell. If it goes into blood, it's going to turn into blood cell. If it's going to go to brain cell and everything else that's going on. So that kind of about covers it. I think Kevin froze us again. We'll have to, let it go, let it go. We'll sing that all for him. So with that being said, I think that was a good segue to get him off. But yeah, I wanted to bring him on. I get to have these conversations a lot. And sometimes I'll be sitting over here and I'm like, I think people want to know about this stuff. So, if you like this, if you know somebody that's just struggling with, any degenerative thing or just kind of feeling older or wants to feel younger, share this out. You can contact the office. We have all Kevin's information on Infinity Cells. They actually been doing them here for probably 3 months or so like that. Kevin and his team they'll fly in and they'll set up. Oh, he's back.
Hey, sorry.
I was just talking about.
I actually live by a military base, and I live by a military base, and they're bombing tonight, so that kind of interrupts my Wi-Fi signal. So my apologies on that. So we're back though.
You like Gitmo? Is that what you?
yeah, not quite. That healing revolution, has a lot of attention on us in a good way. So. So the body, right away, those cells start doubling and they start creating the tissue that the body needs, whether it's cartilage or ligament or tendon or heart or bone or blood. We actually just got feedback from a client who part of his lung. Months after therapy, he was having a new growth, and they were concerned that lung challenge was back. Lo and behold, it's literal new lung tissue that is grown. It's not the bad tissue that was growing before. It's new healthy lung tissue, and this is in a guy who's in his late 60s. And so the replication rate, this is literally the most powerful way to help your body heal and regenerate in ways that we literally can't do. I can't increase my bank account unless I put more money in there. And we now have the ability to do that.
Well, I think that's great. And then, Rima was talking about, she loves this, talking price wise, in his insurance. Is there any talk about insurance starting to cover this? Do you see that in the future at all? Figures
there's different talk that there be, and we have no idea. We're working real hard to make that happen. I mean, but you know what that's like. The ability. How long did it take for insurance to cover, right? We're kind of in that same boat. So insurance doesn't cover it at this. It is a cash payment. Therapy ranges. Again, we just like to be transparent and clear and upfront for people. We do therapy in 2 dosages, either once.
Froze up again on there, and he must be getting bombed again. Is going on. So I think he's talking about the 2 cc's. Where's my camera? 2 cc's that are going on at 6,500, and then I think 1 cc's 4. And most people would recommend the 6,500, but he also does really cool stuff with payment plans. And as it turns out that the payments are less than people are paying for their own. Well, he's
okay.
I was just talking.
Can't keep it down.
I was just telling him that 2 cc's is 6,500,
yep.
And then 1 cc's 4.
3,500 for 1 cc, 6,500 for 2. So it's a $500 discount to do 2 cc's. We have different payment plans that we can work with people as well as family discounts. So, if we have husbands and wives or parents and kids coming in, we have a lot of opportunity to work that for people.
Yeah, and that's one of the best things is that they've, with my patients and everybody else, has been real flexible with doing it. And I love the fact that, you don't dance around the price, because it is what it is, because it's expensive to get the cells, screen them, right, and do everything. So it's more of the value than the cost. And I was talking with, some of the patients around here, I'm going, so it's not inexpensive, but it's not so drastically expensive that it's really going to probably change most people's lives. What right. changes their lives is when they take advantage of the stuff and they get the value out of it.
And just to give people a real brief comparison, the average copay for a knee replacement is $12. The Magic Golden Insurance Plan. Most people, the average rate in the United States for a knee replacement, the average person is still knee surgery. Okay. And that's if there's no complications. That's not the PT copays and all the other stuff too.
Okay, Kevin, say that again, because you broke up out of there. So the average copay for a knee replacement is how much?
Sorry. Yeah, $12,000, like $11,750 is the average out of pocket cost for a person to get a knee replacement.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, so and that's not including a lot of other costs that are in there, missed work, all these kinds of things. And so for us, when people say well, it's worth it, and our question is, what are you wanting to accomplish, and what is the calling on your life? If you think that you're meant to be couch bound and house bound.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. Is because it always comes down to a value issue. Some people, not judging anything else, are completely happy sitting and watching Matlock and Jeopardy and just kind of, waiting their time out. It's a much different a much different life than you know, I'm traveling or I'm gardening or I'm playing with the grandkids and doing anything else that we have new Kevin Lucases.
There's stem cells. There's two of us.
But yeah, it comes down. It comes to about the value put on the life that you're doing, your vision, your mission, your purpose on getting out. And I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer,
right?
And it's just so exciting that we actually have the technology to do this.
Right. And
so
we like to ask. We like to ask our clients, you know, how do you go out? You know, very dangerous. You might not make it. It's going to take 5 or 6 months for you to row across the ocean. You can take a steamboat, which might make it 2 or 3 months, or you can take a jet plane in 5 or 6 hours, right? And the safety, and you can get there, and you can get to Europe and things that you want to do, and enjoy life, and enjoy it in a way that you can't do if you have to spend most of your day just getting through the day and being miserable. And for me, the big reason on why I do this is that I believe physical pain and emotional pain take away and steal people's lives and their relationships. And it's not that it's the hip pain that's the big problem. The big problem is the fact that you can't go dance with your wife, or you can't go play with your kids on the floor, or you can't, you know, do the things that you want to do. Pain is the limiter. And if we can help the body start regenerating and repairing, we don't just see a person who's living pain-free. And you said this to me one time, and it was really powerful. And this is why I think we're, you know, such a good fit, is that we're so similar in this thinking is, so what if your headache goes away? Right? Okay, your headache goes away, but then what? Right? Then you have the ability to engage the things that you want to do. All right. So that really is our goal, our focus, and we feel so blessed that in your clinic, and my mission is to just help as many people as possible learn and realize, number one, when you're not going down, and the pain that you have today isn't what you have to have tomorrow and moving forward.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We've been, you're cutting in and out. So I think that's the God segue for us. But yeah, so if you guys share this out, I wanted you guys to get the information out, knowing the possibilities that we can do that. If you have, you need any information for you, what's the best way for them to contact you? Just you'd contact us at the office, and we can get this stuff done, and give us an Infinity Cells, and we'll get it done. Actually, you know what we can do?
Oh, okay, I'm back.
Do you have a PDF of the book, the stem cell book? Anyway, we got a little stem cell book. I don't have one right in front of me, but kind of explains everything. If you guys have any more questions, or get her done. Yeah, you know what, Rima? That's it's the biggest thing. And when I was first dropping knowledge bombs on Kevin, when we were talking about pain, is what happens with a headache, but so what? Then what? So pain is actually called nociception. So like when you're talking about the physical thing about like, ow, that hurts, that's called nociception. But pain is just also a discomfort that we have going on there. And when I talk about real pain, the real pain is when you can't dance with your wife, you can't play with your kids, you can't go on that vacation. And what happens slowly is that your life gets smaller. And if you see this typically in elderly, where their whole generation and their whole life is about a mile radius, and it gets smaller and smaller. And as they get smaller and smaller, sometimes their house is the living room, the kitchen, and the bedroom, and the bathroom.
Yeah,
and
that's powerful.
Yeah, and that's not nociception pain. That's the psychological pain that, life is just a measure of our different experiences. When you can't physically or even mentally sometimes start, experience more, I think that's when your life begins to shrink. And for $6,500 a year, or 13 if you do them twice again, and then you're getting better and better and better, it's kind of a no-brainer. From Maslow's hierarchy, once you've got your food, your shelter, and everything else, what else is there? We're always moving over until self-actualization. And how do you do that without a clear mind and body? And,
Exactly.
didn't mean to get all hip, but,
I love it.
but so where should people contact you?
So you can go to our website, newhoperegeneration.com. And we actually have a resource website. We have a wonderful video that takes you through all the details and the nuances of how stem cells work, where they come from, what's happening in the body. But we can also schedule a consultation for you to talk with either myself or one of the medical team about your unique situation, and really see if this is a good fit for you, and why this could potentially truly change your life. So newhoperegeneration.com, and I'm going to leave a phone number as well. The phone number that you can either call or text is 509-844-4742. And if you didn't get, and Bill has really the books at the offices. If you're not a techie person and you love a book in your hand, Bill has books at his office. So
yeah, we definitely have all that stuff. Rima, you're one of the original hippies, so you have that going on. With that being said, looks like Kevin's gotten bombed a little here again. And, it's funny, when we used to say someone was getting bombed, we were just thinking that maybe he was drinking some tequila around the corner or something, or probably whiskey because he's in Florida. But he's actually having those military guys go at it. So I'm going to end the broadcast. Rima, it was great seeing you. George, everybody else, I appreciate you guys coming out, and I'll catch you soon. I hope this was exciting for you. Peace.